LGBT Gay Judges Association and the other two districts. So, and we'll begin momentarily. So my name is Louis Speaks Tanner. I'm the president of the Pride Alliance, which has been in existence in its current format since 2018. We've been slow in getting organized, but we've been meeting weekly. I mean, not weekly, monthly for the past few years. So welcome everyone to the panel. And so so in the discussion today, we have three individuals, and we'll be introducing them. And we will be recording the event so that we want to have a record of it, and two, if we can post it later on to our YouTube channel, we will. But just to let you know. And you're also able to post questions in the Q&A. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll open up chat so you can say hello or whatever at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Hillary Wagner, who's the Access to Justice Coordinator, who will say a few words.
Thanks so much, Louis. I'm wondering if everybody can hear me okay. So hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. We'll be getting into our panel very soon. But first, I would love to thank the Access to Justice Committee in the 5th Judicial District and the Access and Equal Justice Committee of the 6th Judicial District. Specifically, I'd love to thank Kristen Neri, who is on the call and moderating our chat right now, for all of her work around putting this together and coordinating with the Pride Alliance and the LGBT Judges Association. I'd also like to acknowledge the Deputy District Executive for the 6th Judicial District, Amanda Weiland, who's on the call right now. Thank you so much, Amanda, for joining. If you'd like to take a second to say a few words, I'll give you an opportunity to do that before handing it over to Keri.
I just want to thank everybody again. Thanks to Kristen. Without Kristen, we would not have pulled this off. She's been our tech person and just helping with a million things. I know that Louis is going to start and share some information. My name is Keri Boedigheimer. I'm going to serve as the moderator today. I'm with the Office of Trial Court Support. I'm a senior court analyst here. I help with training operationally in the districts. My primary expertise is in the problem-solving courts, specifically the domestic violence and integrated domestic violence courts. Louis, did you want to share anything else about Pride Alliance, or?
No, we could begin, and Kristen will take off the introductory slide, and we'll begin. So welcome,
Wonderful.
Everyone.
Thank you. Happy Pride, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. We're excited to have an important conversation today about the experiences and contributions of LGBTQ professionals in our court system. So I'd like to introduce the panelists. We do have a slight change right now. Judge Doherty, who is one of our panelists, had a verdict on her trial. So she hopefully will be joining us as soon as she can today. But I would like to, perfect
I'm
timing.
here. Yep.
Welcome, Judge Doherty. Wonderful.
Thank you.
So I'd like to first introduce Judge David Freed. Judge Freed is the New York State Court of Claims Judge and Supreme Court Justice of Rockland, Supreme, and County Courts. Judge Mary Ann Doherty, who is Syracuse City Court Judge, and Troy Stover, who is a court assistant with the Ulster County Family Court. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for agreeing to be with us. Each of our panelists bring a unique story that's been shaped by both their personal and professional lives. And today we're going to look beyond titles and bios and understand the values, challenges that have shaped you all into the leaders and professionals that you've been. So I'd like to begin and hear some about your journey. Judge Freed, we're going to start with you. Can you share a bit about your personal and professional journey and what led you to your current role in the court system?
Sure. So first of all, thank you to the Pride Alliance for bringing all of us together today. I am a judge of the Court of Claims. I sit in the Supreme Court, venued in Rockland County, and I'm also president of the New York State LGBTQ plus Judges Association. My journey has been one that, as I reflect on it, started really when I was quite young. I first ran for office when I was 22 years old. I was elected to the legislature in my home county. Always had a interest in government, and it was through that process that I really learned that my true passion was in the court system. And when I was 29 years old, I ran for village justice in my home village and won, and served in that capacity for roughly 15 years. And I became a town justice during that time as well, and served in both capacities. Had a private law practice, because as a town or village judge, you can also work as an attorney at the same time. And then in 2023, Governor Hochul appointed me to the Court of Claims, and I'm on permanent loan from the Court of Claims to the Supreme Court in my home county of Rockland. So, and in the background of that was a significant level of fear growing up as a young adult, unsure of how and all to embrace my own truth. And, when I think back, and it's not that long ago, I'm 46 years old, but in a short time, we have grown quite a bit as a society. In the 90s, being in high school and growing up in the 80s and 90s, I was not as comfortable to just simply be out and embrace my truth and really live my life. And that changed. And it was the greatest decision that I ever made, was to just celebrate who I am as a person. Because underneath the judge is David, a regular person. And I'm very happy that I have, I celebrate who I am as a person. I am married. I have a wonderful husband, and we live together. I have a stepson that lives with us full time. So my journey has been one of, overcoming fear, challenge, and at the same time, making sure that I have never forgotten what my own personal journey has been, so that I can do what I can as just one person to participate in important discussions such as this. And I am so thrilled that we have such a wonderful, I see 41 people there. That's incredible. And we have a wonderful showing here today, because whether or not you are a member of the LGBTQ plus community yourself, or an ally, look throughout this program today for one small thing, whatever it happens to be, that you see or hear or take away, and grab onto that one thing and hold it with you and try to help spread that message, right? Because although we've made great progress, we're not there yet. We have lots of work to still do, and our allies are really our most important resource. So anyway, sorry to go on, but I hope you don't mind me sharing a little personal story, but I think it's important to have that personal dialogue.
Thank you. No, please, personal is just as important as professional. They intermingle, in all walks of life. Troy, the next question is for you. Welcome. Have there been any pivotal moments in your career where your identity shaped your path or decisions?
Yes, it was actually the Pride Alliance of the New York State Courts, or a previous iteration thereof, that originally reached out to members of the LGBTQIA plus community some years back. I believe in hoping to get more of us into the court system. And they provided study guides and helped us to take the court assistant test. I had never even known that one could work in the court system. After 34 years in corporate America, it never even dawned on me that that was even an option. I thought everyone in the court system must have just been born and raised there, and had no idea that that was even a career trajectory. I took the test, I scored 90, and had I not heard from an acquaintance who was friends with the Pride Alliance, I would have never known that this could have come to pass. So my entire life has been happy coincidences and pivotal moments.
Thank you, Troy. This question is for Judge Doherty and for Troy. Judge Doherty, we'll start with you. If there was a time in your career that you did not serve openly as an LGBTQ plus professional within the court system, what was the reason?
There's a little caveat to that. I have always been out as a judge in when I was initially elected in 2013. I had already come out at that point. When I was not out, was at a job. I worked for the city of Syracuse for 12 years in their law department when I first got out of law school, which I was kind of late to the lawyer game, so I didn't go to law school till I was 36. So when I graduated, that was the first significant job that I had, and I was not out at that point. And I just think for me, when I worked for the city, it was like if you're not out and you want to come out after you're already there and you've established these relationships, it's very difficult to do that. So not being out, you're not using pronouns. You're talking to friends that you make there, not using she as someone that you're with. You do all these things and it becomes exhausting. And I think when I was with the city, once my wife, Mary, and I, we were just together at the time. We were not married. Way back when in 2008, Mary had our twins. So Will and Kate were born on January 31st of 2008. And I sort of just sent an email out to everyone that I worked with because they were premature and I was going to be in and out of the office and they were in the NICU. And so I just sent this blast out to everybody and kind of came out through an email to all of my coworkers and my bosses at work that we have these babies and I'll be in and out of the office. And I think that was very freeing, and everybody in my workplace couldn't have been more supportive. They brought in gifts. My boss got me a raise. He's like, you have twins, you need to make more money. And I think I had made all these assumptions about them that were unfair. And they couldn't have been nicer. But as far as working in the court system, I've always been out, and I campaigned when I was running as a lesbian with my family. You hand out cards and things like that, and our picture was on there. And so I've always been out in this job, but I have dealt with that. And I think I was unfair to my coworkers because they couldn't have been nicer about it. But if you're not out initially, then it becomes difficult. I found it very difficult to come out after the fact to people until our kids were born. And then it became very easy for me after that. And I've been out ever since. So that's my story. It's sort of a little caveat with the court system, but thank you for asking. Thank you, Judge. Troy?
Yes, similar to the judge, I was gravely mistaken. Again, after so many years in the private sector, I did not serve openly in the court system initially. I didn't serve openly really until I became a supervisor at the New York State Smokers Quit line. It was, again, my first state job, so to speak, and the organization was very, very dedicated to diversity. They had an entire department built around it. And it took me a while to finally feel safe, but much with the Smokers Quit line and the court system, I feel very blessed that we're in my personal experience anyways, surrounded by people who kind of let you know it's okay to come out as you're kind of edging your way around the topic of, you know, or maybe you don't know, but like certain, you try things, you try to present a little bit of your authentic self. And this is, I feel like in the queer community, it's probably a thing that we're all very well versed on, so much so that we don't really know the words for it, but you kind of work a room to see how you can present yourself, how open you can be in some spaces. And to my own disappointment, when I was previously stationed with the courts, it seemed like an area that was not a safe space. So I did keep it very close to my chest. But they find you anyways, and they were very supportive. And, it was one of those things where don't judge books by its covers goes both way. And I realized, oh, I was safe all along. And now where I'm at now, it's an incredibly safe space. And I feel very, again, blessed is the only word I can think of, because it shows that your truth does matter. I think throughout this entire thing, we're going to hear the words like truth often, and we're going to hear words like stories often, because we have to tell our stories. We are stories, and stories like these hopefully will help people that are scared to know that they don't have to be, and help people that don't know about us to learn something about us, and then in turn also not be scared. So there was a time where I did not serve openly. Now, I say that I serve openly, but I don't really serve openly. I'm not walking around with a placard all day long saying, I'm pansexual, but I'm just myself. And the people that work with me are okay with that. I don't want to say words like that because it's not, their being okay is not contingent on me being myself, but it sure is nice to know that I can just walk the halls and not be threatened. So.
Thank you, Troy. And that seems to be a common, denominator, it being exhausting not to be your true self, putting up these barriers because you don't feel safe. And I think that many of us do that, even, LGBTQ community, allies. If we don't feel we're in a safe space, we're immediately putting up a guard to help protect ourselves. So, I thank you for sharing that. The next question is for Judge Freed. What has it meant to you to serve openly as an LGBTQ professional within the court system?
Well, I think it's meant a lot to me. I feel that we all add a level of diversity and perspective to the court system. Judges are court employees, I have to give a shout out, by the way, to the law librarians, because they're here in mass. I was just looking through the list, so shout out to the court law librarians. But when you look at judges and interpreters and court officers and clerks and court analysts, we all have our role to play, and we're all very important, because we can't do this without any of us missing, right? So we all have a very equal and important role. To me, it has been a very fulfilling experience, because the perspective that I aspire to add is obviously the presence of an awareness relevant to our LGBTQ plus community. And I have to say that my employer, the state of New York, and the leadership team of the Office of Court Administration, Chief Judge Wilson and Chief Administrative Judge Zayas and First Deputy Chief Administrative Judge St. George and Judge Richardson and DCAJ Murphy and Silvera, I have had direct interactions with each of them and have found that each and every one of them has embraced this community, our community, significantly. And I think that it is very important for all of us to know that the leadership team that leads our court system not only welcomes us, but celebrates our presence in this profession. There are, it's one thing to talk about support, and then it's another thing to actually, observe it and see it happen. And I can give you a couple of examples of the way that this has specifically played out. So, for example, the 9th Judicial District, where I serve, we had a subcommittee that we formed for access to justice, and we created a bench card. Judge James Heyer, and there was a whole committee that worked on this product. I believe that all of you have it in your respective courts. On how to properly address and the issue of pronouns, right? What is the appropriate way to address a court user or an attorney or a member of the public that is seeking our services? Because when we disregard people's basic identities, it is a message that you're, quite frankly, not welcome here. So it's a way for us to really prioritize. So the bench card was one way that we've educated the judges and the other court professionals on an issue as important and sometimes difficult. Sometimes it's difficult. Someone may be completely well-intended and not know, the right protocol or etiquette or, for properly addressing someone. And there are best practices, and we make efforts to address it. Another issue is in judicial decision writing. So, when I issue decisions in court, I try to stay away from, he, she, instead plaintiff, defendant, counsel. Titles are one way of dealing with it, as opposed to misgendering someone, and perhaps even with no intention whatsoever, conveying a level of disrespect and really not being inclusive in the way that we function. So the point is that we have, I think, my personal participation has been very meaningful because there are goals. We work collaboratively. I work with wonderful colleagues, and our ideas and our concerns are actually being addressed, and there are actually steps being taken to address our concerns. So I do believe that to go back to your question, the aspect of how is it meaningful? How does it feel? It feels very fulfilling. It feels very fulfilling that I work in a system of court professionals that understand that access to justice is critical to our mission of delivering and ensuring justice, making sure that the public is confident in the court system and its accessibility and neutrality, et cetera. And again, it's reassuring to have that support from leadership.
Thank you, Judge. I'm going to open up this question to the entire panel. Judge Doherty, if you'd like to start. Looking back, what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self as you were starting your career?
Well, probably, obviously, the one thing I would say is come out earlier. Come out at work right away, because as I stated before, it was exhausting to pretend that I was straight, is what I felt like I was doing in avoiding using pronouns and things. And I was with my future wife at the time that I worked for the city. So, I really regret that, because it feels somewhat disrespectful to her that I wasn't. So I think I would tell my younger self that it's okay to come out, don't care so much about what people think. It sounds very cliche, but that's really what I would say. It would have just made, I pretended at work for, almost 8 years at my job with the city before I came out. So it probably was almost 9 years. And I just would have told myself to not worry so much about what people thought, because I was incorrect, and I didn't give them enough credit to realize that they would be so accepting and supportive. So that's my one thing I would tell my younger self.
Thank you. Troy?
As I kind of alluded to earlier, I would have definitely told the younger me to look into the New York court system as far as employment goes. It's a little bit of a bitter pill to be watching people younger than me retire already. But that's not my story, so I'm still here. The other thing I would really want to kind of piggybacking off of what the judge said, but in a different direction, is figure yourself out. I was born and raised in an environment where I literally spent half of my life trying to be something that I was not, in fear of being the thing that I was, because the thing that I was not permissible. And the reason that I do all the things that I do outside of court, I'm a deacon with the church. I'm a co-creator and a producer of a March of the Fairies community building event in Kingston. I'm a team captain and a campaigner for the annual Out of the Darkness Walk fundraiser for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. I speak publicly. I'm part of the steering committee member for the parade and the marshal for the Kingston Pride Festival. I do these things because I don't ever want another young person to be standing on the edge of a bridge wondering if they should. And I feel that as adults now, we need to take care of children, and one of those children is our own inner child. And had I the opportunity, I would have told that child, girl, you are not that. Figure out what you are, because what you are is good enough and beautiful, and you have a whole life to be able to do it. Or you can waste half your life doing something else. So me and my younger self have a lot of conversations.
Thank you, Troy. Judge?
Well, it's actually a tough question. On the one hand, I wish that I would have embraced my my own truths and story a lot sooner, a lot earlier in life. Yes, that is definitely a true statement. But on the other hand, I don't really know that there's a right or wrong answer. Each of us are different, and we all have our own personalities and stories and levels of support, etc. And, who knows, right? If you go back in time and you change one fact, who knows what the cascading effect is? I one time said to my husband, I wish that I would have, come out earlier. And his response to me was fascinating. It was, but then maybe you wouldn't have met me. So, I don't necessarily have regrets. I just wish that I would have said to my younger self, just very simply, just be you. Just do it naturally, whatever it is. Because, I also have now journeyed through adulthood, armed with the lessons of appreciating love, appreciating myself. So I don't know that I would necessarily redo it, and everything just worked out fine. I have to say that, from that fearful little boy who had more hair than, who ends up growing up. And, when I was before the Senate for my confirmation hearing. I had been appointed, but nominated by the governor, and then for the Court of Claims, you have to go before the Senate for confirmation. And the first words out of my mouth were, because it was in June, was "Happy Pride" to the Senate Judiciary Committee. And the welcoming, warm response of Happy Pride back from the senators back to me, it was like a real interesting moment in my life, because I realized that the thing that I had been afraid of was possibly one of my greatest strengths, because because it really let me be me. So I think that younger self would have been well served to just be yourself, be who you are.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing those stories. It's inspiring to hear how identity, your courage, your resilience has shaped your journeys. We're going to turn it over to workplace and our court system. So creating inclusive spaces, as we know, it's not just about policies, it's about culture, it's about relationships, our daily experiences. So we'd like to talk about what it's like to work in the court system as LGBTQ professionals, the progress we've seen, the challenges that still arise, and what real allyship looks like. So we'll start with you, Troy. The first question is, what challenges have you faced as an LGBTQ professional in the court system, and how did you navigate them?
The first challenge that, again, kind of alluded to before, was just me realizing that I was in a space where I could be myself. So that was a self-challenge that I needed to get over. I'm still getting over and enjoying the journey with it. Other challenges, really from the courtroom perspective, as somebody in the LGBTQIA plus community, again, our guard is, well, I'm also an old Polish lady from Buffalo, so my guard is always up. And in the courtroom, I'm paying attention. And yes, things like pronouns and proper etiquette, I'm listening for that. And I'm watching people, and there's good people in the court system that have earnest questions and ask authentically when they see you as an expert on the given topic, or at least an ambassador thereof. And I've had several in this court asking me really good questions that they just really wanted to know so they could better serve the litigants. And I appreciate that. But I also feel like, as a court clerk, you want them to be prepared and not have to answer questions on the fly all the time. So I created a little, I think it's a 3-page, I call it the Quick Queer Cheat Sheet. And I just gave it to those individuals that asked me about them so that they would have it run on the ready. And it's just a basic form of the basic definitions, and breaks down the genders and breaks down what type of language they should be listening for, as far as what can be insulting to an LGBTQIA person that you would never really say about a cis het person, which is cisgender heterosexual. And I also included, if you've never heard of it, I highly recommend it to everybody to download a version of the Gender Bread Person. It is just a 1-page sheet. It is easily available. It's for free online, Gender Bread Person, and it gives a really good snapshot of what is the difference between orientation and gender expression and gender identity. And it just kind of gives you a broad overview of that. So we create things like that. That is one of the challenges I saw, and that is how I addressed it within the court system. Again, I do it on a very one-on-one type scenario, because the people that want to know will seek it out. The people that don't want to know aren't going to care no matter what. So I just didn't feel like it should be like a broad-based thing. It was just a one-on-one at this point. But glad to share it if anybody else wants it. But definitely check out that genderbread person. And the more, like any of us in that generation, knowledge is power. Bing! Knowledge is power. And it not only makes us better allies, but it makes us better queer folk ourselves.
And a follow-up question, what changes do you think still need to happen towards LGBTQ inclusion within the courts?
I believe, and I don't know if this is happening, I'm not at that level, but if it's not happening, I believe it needs to happen. I think that the LGBTQIA plus community, they need to be the community that's asked. Similar to my personal experience, the policymakers should be asking us and hearing our answers and having us be involved directly with the creation of the policies themselves. Not that we are the ones that know everything and we're going to get things wrong ourselves, but at least if we're part of that, we'll know, we'll be able to formulate it to our life experiences. A quick clumsy analogy is all the court clerks I work with always say, like, UCMS was definitely not designed by court clerks. It was designed by someone who's never been in a courtroom, something like that. I feel like as long as the policies are guided by the community that they're supposed to protect, we will all be better served because, of course, my rights ensure you your rights.
Thank you, Troy. Judge Freed, same question.
Sure. So I think that, I've actually been very blessed to serve in Rockland. I mean, my courthouse family is extremely supportive. We have, this is unusual, just statistically, we have 3 LGBTQ judges here. And that has really been, that is unique, I believe, at least from what I've heard from others. So there were 4 of us that are out in the 9th JD and 3 here. Just yesterday, we in the Pride Alliance was one of our co-sponsors. We hosted our annual Pride Justice Awards, and there were about 120 people that were there in person, and it was live streamed. And the entire courthouse community was there. Everyone was there, interpreters and court officers and clerks and judges and members of the community were there. And it was really this very beautiful coming together of our courthouse and district to celebrate Pride Month and to recognize our various honorees. In terms of things that still need to be done, well, I think that the court system is actually quite proactive in identifying areas that we need to address. I have sensed, I don't speak for the leadership, but I have my own observations is that leadership is supportive. I think going back to what Troy said, I think that we should all consider the FILA Commission. I am not a member of the FILA Commission, but the FILA Commission is a resource, and it is the LGBTQ Commission of the New York court system. So to the extent that there are issues that people, particularly court employees, perceive or have ideas or concerns or think something could be addressed, in a different way, the FILA Commission is there. Also, our association is there, the New York State LGBTQ plus Judges Association. You can always reach out to us on our social media. Here's the selfish plug, nylgbtqjudges.com is our website, and nylgbtqjudges is our Instagram. You can always send us a message, or you can email us too, if there's something, and then we may not be able to help directly, but we could perhaps connect you to the right resource. I could certainly make that promise. I will say, though, that as a general kind of broad stroke theme, okay, that we are living in a challenging time where all institutions of government, including our branch, are really facing unprecedented challenges. And I think that all of us have a role to play in ensuring that justice works, notwithstanding any of those challenges. So I think that this is a time for all of us, judges and non-judges, everyone, to kind of recommit ourselves and to look inward and to really make sure that our court system continues to work at all cylinders, that we're here and that we make sure that people that come to us are coming to us because they have an issue in their life, whatever it is, big, small, in between. They have to be reassured that the court system is here, that we are neutral, we are functioning well, we are focused on a just outcome, irrespective of any perceived barriers that the court user might sense. And we have to address those things when we see it or sense it, so that everyone feels and knows with confidence that this is their court system.
Thank you, Judge. Judge Doherty, what does effective and meaningful allyship look like from your fellow judges, from colleagues, and other employees in the court that are not part of the LGBTQ community?
I think for me, I feel very supported here by the judges that I serve with in Syracuse. I did have in thinking about this question, I did think of a story about Judge Tormey, who was our administrative judge when I became a judge here. And, he and I had very different political views. I think it was very obvious when you'd visit him in his office. But I do know that Judge Tormey knew I was gay. He knew I was a lesbian. He came to my swearing in. My family was there, and the kids and Mary were there. And he just was really great to me, as far as he sought me out to be supervising judge. I hadn't been a judge very long. We had a really, really wonderful relationship. And even given his views and things like that, Judge Tormey hosted an event over in the old courthouse in his courtroom, which was like a ceremonial courtroom during Pride. And it was pre-COVID, pre all that. It went out across the 5th Judicial District, and that they had a Teams TV set up, but there were a lot of people from the court system in the courtroom. And he invited me to speak, and there were a couple other people that he brought to speak. And he has since passed away, but when I think about an ally, he was really someone that was so fair and so supportive of me, and really helped my career being here, and kind of encouraging me to become more involved, to tell my story as a gay couple with kids. And he just was very open-minded and supportive, and I'll never forget that. And that's the thing that, when I was thinking about this question, that really stuck out to me, was just being really wonderful to me, regardless of what his personal views were. I don't know. We never got to it, but I never knew what they were. He just was a wonderful, wonderful ally for me here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Troy, same question?
Yes. I've been waiting for this question because I get to tell one of my favorite stories from working in the court system. Effective and meaningful allyship looks like this. We had what I believe was our first non-binary litigant appear before us, and it was a neglect matter. So those of you who know that it was already dicey. And there were several instances throughout the hearing where the incorrect pronoun usage was used by various agency representatives. And my judge tried to correct each one as best she could. And at one point, I could kind of hear my judge struggling with choosing an honorific. And she ended up going with the litigant's name. So during a break that followed shortly thereafter, I just kind of rolled over to her and said, I noticed you're struggling with your honorific. In my experience, you might want to try using mix. That's MX, or pronounced mix. As though, it's not foolproof, but most non-binary people, again, in my experience, are not going to be offended if you use mix. We came back from the break. My judge addressed the litigant as mix, and immediately following that, every single person in the room used the same honorific for that person and did not mess up the pronouns again. It was an immediate washing over of the entire room, and the entire culture changed with one word. And one person with authority, caring enough about doing the right thing, so much so that they take the advice from someone in the know, and fearless enough to implement that advice publicly to benefit the best interest of the marginalized community member, that flips the script. And after that, everyone else follows suit. That's what allyship looks like. It's going to the dangerous place with us and being able to change the culture because of your privilege. This is a little bit off the beaten track, but one of my catchphrases is privilege is to be used as a tool, not a weapon. In that instance, the judge, and every instance my judge uses their privilege as a tool, and that I can't tell that story enough times.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you all. That was some very thoughtful insight about inclusion. It actually shifts us right into the next topic, which is representation and visibility. And we've been discussing a little bit about this, that it's a system built on public trust. Having a range of voices really matters, not just in the courtrooms, but just how people experience justice. So we have a couple questions about visibility and how they can impact both how justice is delivered and how it's perceived. So Judge Freed, why is visibility of LGBTQ plus professionals in the court system important, not only for colleagues, but for the public?
Well, I think that it sends a message to the public that when a member of the public or an attorney or court user comes to a courthouse and sees or experiences indicia of acceptance, inclusion, support, that person is in a greater position to feel at home. It is their court system. It's not ours. So I think that the issue of visibility, for example, knowing that there's a Pride Alliance, for example, that that is there for support of court system employees, that very fact being communicated through courthouse communities across the state is one that enables the public to realize that we are mindful, that we are inclusive, and that we are aware. We may not get it right, but let us know that. Educate us. So I think all of these things that we do, like our Pride Justice Award celebration yesterday, the fact that we have, equal justice committees in the judicial districts, for example, I'm driving up to Syracuse for the Pride Parade this weekend. I'm going to come up on, I saw Judge Neri is on here, so I'm looking forward to my visit to Syracuse. And, the fact that we have a UCS team marching in the parade in Syracuse with UCS Pride t-shirts that I think our friends in the 3rd Judicial District may have led on. I have mine. It's those little things that really make a big difference. It really does. I cannot tell you how many times I have been at some event someplace, pride related, not pride related, where someone has said, "Well, thank you for coming here, Judge." It really makes a difference. So I think that those public outreaches that we do, whether it's the state fair or going to a pride parade or any number of things and connecting to the public, I think is a fantastic thing and allows us to break down those barriers a little bit. Remember, we're the most mysterious of the 3 branches of government, right? They see the executive on TV all the time. They write to their legislators on issues. We're like this, perceived more, mysterious branch of government. I have student groups come into my courtroom all the time. And when I say to them, we're the 3rd branch of government and, we work for you, they're like shocked because, it's perceived to be this distant concept, right? So I think it's all of those things, right? We have Zenith Taylor, for example, who is now working for the court system, in public engagement. All of these things are critical ingredients that answer the question that you asked.
Thank you. And I'm just watching the time. I know that we are under 10 minutes. I know that there were some other questions in this section that I really had hoped to get to, but I think just so that we can get to the next segment, I'm going to flip it over to advocacy and how our hopes and futures and how LGBTQ court professionals can help build a more equitable system, what advice you'd give to the next generation that are thinking about joining this work. So Judge Doherty, if you can start. Oh, I'm sorry, actually that question is for all 3. Troy, what role do LGBTQ court professionals play in advocating for a more equitable and inclusive justice system?
Troy, hold on. I don't want to throw you off, but Judge Freed does have to get off the call for court. So
okay,
I don't know if you want to answer that before you
Sure,
go.
Judge Freed, if you want to answer that first, and then I'll kick it to Troy. Now we know next year we need more than an hour.
Well, I have a trial recommencing at 2:00, so I do ask you to forgive me that I have to step off in a moment. But it has been an absolute pleasure to participate, and I am totally impressed with the number of people that have logged on and who are participating today. My answer to the question is I think has been answered in some of the other questions where, we need to each commit ourselves to, to inclusivity and access to justice for all New Yorkers, not just the LGBTQ plus community. Okay, so all of the different groups and perspectives that make up the fabric of New York, which is one of our greatest resources, we need to do whatever we can to kind of embrace and listen, right? We need to hear more often. We have to listen to people. If you see something or experience something, or a juror makes a recommendation based upon their experience of the courthouse, make sure to get that where it needs to go. If you experience a litigant who has a suggestion or a complaint, make sure they get where they need to be so that those issues, and I think that's the greatest internal advocacy that we can achieve. And when you think about the fact that the Pride Alliance being built of court system employees, I mean, this is the boots on the ground right here. I mean, this is where it happens. So we are the people, you are the people that are interacting with the public, and there are always solutions. There's always a place to go to find a solution or to create one if it doesn't exist. So to the fact that advocacy in our way as court professionals to make sure that we are in fact connecting people with resources and ideas with solution makers. So I'm sorry for having to go, but it has really been a great pleasure. And thank you to Judge Doherty and to Troy. It was so nice to join you in the panel.
Thank you so much,
Take care.
Judge. Happy Pride.
Happy
Yeah,
Pride.
happy
See you in Syracuse on Saturday.
Yeah.
See you then, Judge.
Take
Thank
care.
you. And
Bye-bye.
Keri, there's one question in the chat, just so you know, too.
I did see it. I'm just going to kick the last question off to Judge Doherty and have Troy follow up with that. Just to wrap everything up, what advice would you give to LGBTQ individuals considering a career in the court system or public system?
I guess for me, I would just say be who you are. Trust yourself and the people that you are going to work with. As I say to most young people, you have to be professional. Integrity is a big part of this. I would tell the LGBTQ plus individuals to get involved. I think to piggyback on something that Troy said earlier, we need to be at the table. We need to be there. We need to be represented. We need to be seen. So I would tell them to get involved as much as you can with other things that are at work, other commissions or other committees that you can sit on and be a part of. And just be open about yourself and don't make assumptions about other people, as we don't want them to make about us. And I think that covers pretty much everything. So that's what I would say.
Troy?
Okay, in 2 minutes, here we go. I would tell an LGBTQIA plus individual, again, get started when you're young and know that you're coming into a safe space, but also know that that won't necessarily change mindsets of homophobic individuals, but it does keep them well behaved. And I would advise that person to know and to be honest with themselves about why they want a career in the courts. The courts can be a paycheck, but the courts can be a wonderful, wonderful adventure where you can actually impact people's lives and make lives better. That's why I stick around. Of course, the paycheck doesn't hurt either. And of course, I would advise that person to be honest with themselves and feel confident in the fact that they can be honest with others about themselves as well. That said, it's always going to be solely up to them as to how much or how little they decide to out themselves to others, and enjoy it. It's a wonderful experience.
Thank you, Troy. And we did have one question, and I think it was semi-answered, throughout this last panel and prior. But with the current political climate around LGBTQ topics, particularly transgender rights being what they are right now, where do you, the panelists, look for hope, community, and positivity? If either or both of you would like to give an answer to that.
Go ahead, Troy.
Your Honor.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. We look for hope to the place I believe we have always looked for hope, ourselves and each other and our allies. The world does not change with laws. The world changes with people. And we will make that change. Evolution does not care about fears and phobias. Evolution just happens anyways, and we can be part of that evolution. We can make that evolution happen.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you all for a powerful and honest conversation today. Everyone's stories are strong reminders that visibility matters, that inclusion takes commitment, that it takes all of us, and that our court system is most fair when it truly reflects the people that it serves. Thank you to our panelists for sharing your journeys, your insights. It's been an absolute pleasure. It sends a powerful message. Everyone that joined us, thank you. I hope this conversation sparked some reflection, gave you a deeper understanding, and inspires you to keep pushing for change, whether it's through advocacy, allyship, or simply just by leading with empathy. It starts with conversations like this, and it continues with what we do next. So thank you all for being a part of it. We did get some questions about the bench card. We're happy to share those. And thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Take care. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.